Alright, dads, it's happening. Phase 5 of Season of Discovery launches on September 26th, and it's time to get back into Blackwing Lair and zul'gurub to go collect all that loot and see all the new mechanics and surprises they have in store for us. On top of that, are we getting new dungeons? We have multiple tier sets, new class weapons. It's going to be a fun phase. So today, to get ready for it, I have my top 8 tips that you can do right now to prepare for Phase 5. Let's just get right to it.
Flame! Death! Destruction!
So if you watch any of my videos or been playing Season of Discovery, you know that pretty much everything has an expiration date on it. So the date I'm recording this video is down here, so everything's current as of that date. Things may change, another PTR push might come out that changes up some stuff, who knows? But as it is right now, this is what I'm doing to get ready for Phase 5. And in no particular order, let's get right to it with number 8, hopping on the PTR. In my opinion, the best way to prepare for next phase is to hop on the PTR and try it out. Last week they pushed a change where all the gear coming in Phase 5 are available on vendors right in town, and they have target dummies right out front so you can go out there and try things out, see if you like some of the new set bonuses and whatnot. Or if you're lucky and there's actually things going on, you might be able to hop into a BWL or a ZG raid, or maybe even test work just to try things out. This really is the best way to understand how your class is changing, especially with the new tier sets. And really, this is the best way to figure out what you want to do next phase, how you want to gear up, what do you really need to target. So hop on it, it's free to do. You just have to go to their website, sign up to have a PTR account. I'll put a link to that below, and then just install the PTR client. Really easy, get on there, spend a few minutes, maybe a few hours if you're really invested in your character and wanting to know how to develop it, and just have a good time with it. It's really cool, and having all the gear available really gives you a bit of that power trip where you can understand what it's like to actually get all the gear in a raid as opposed to having that one piece not drop. Maybe that's a little depressing to some people, but I find that kind of fun. But anyways, check it out. Highly recommend it. Best way to get ready in my opinion. And if you do hop into a BWL, you can check out the new debuffs they're putting in as the new mechanic for next phase. And the Black Dragonflight ones introduce new mechanics on each boss, so that one's really worth checking out. By and large, it's similar to what was in Season of Mastery, but the Black Dragonflight buff gives some new stuff in there, so I'd really recommend checking it out. I don't want to spoil that in this video here. I also don't want to go too deep into that topic of this video, but it's worth checking out. I recommend it. I've done a couple BWLs now, and they're a lot of fun. I'm really excited about getting into it for real on the 26th. Number 7, level up your fishing. Get your fishing maxed out. I know, it's great. I'm talking about fishing, everybody's favorite thing in the game, but there's a reason for it, and if you've played Classic before, you know it's because the fish boss in ZG, Gazranka, you need to have fishing to level him up. Now, you need 300 fishing skill to get there, so you don't really need 300. You need that with a rod and some chance to get to 300. Now, you need to go to ZG first, grab a quest item, go back to Nat Pagal and Duskwall and Marsh a couple times in order to buy the Mud Skunk lures to fish up Gazranka. But once you do that, you can be the hero of the raid, getting that extra boss each time, because not everybody's going to level up their fishing. Not everybody's going to be even aware of it. There's a lot of people who don't know any of this stuff that I've learned or playing Season Discovery, so welcome to the game for the first time, somehow. But definitely get your fishing up, especially if there's a piece of loot you want off of that boss, like the new Nat Pagal's Reel, which looks like a great caster trinket, or the new fishing rod, which is not a fishing rod, it's a staff, but the fishing pole nonetheless. Definitely spend the time to get your fishing up. It's quick and easy to do. There's just one little pain you have to go through to get past 225 fishing. You have to go do a quest around the world. It takes a little while, but once you have that done, you can just sit in your main city and just fish all day to your 300. You don't have to really do any effort into it other than that. So get your fishing up, worth having. You can be the hero of the raid in ZG potentially. Number 6, max out on reals. Now, you absolutely want to get to the cap that's currently 100 reals, or reals, or whatever you want to call them, before Phase 5 hits. Shouldn't take you too long, maybe a few days at most if you're really pounded out. Over a week, you'll be able to get 100 pretty easily. The reason for this is that there's new items appearing on the real vendor. First off, there's going to be some new live rooms, idols, totems that you're going to want to get if you're a paladin, druid, or shaman. But it looks like, and this is on the PTR, we'll see if this holds true when it launches, Tier 2 bracers are going to be available on the vendor as well. Now, right now they're listed at 125 reals, indicating they're going to up the cap of the reals ultimately. But get the 100 now, you're only 25 away from a piece of tier, which means you're one drop away from a 2-tier set bonus, which is pretty sweet going into Phase 5. So that's some pre-work now that can really boost your gear up and boost your numbers up once the phase launches relatively quickly. So this is really a no-brainer. Grab some friends, grab some guildies, grab a pug, just go knock out some dungeons. They're really not hard at this point. If you're geared up in Molten Core gear, they're pretty trivial, and you'll get some nice loot once the phase launches or shortly thereafter, so easy to do. Go do that one now for sure. Number 5, take stock of your Firelands Embers and Emerald Chips. So while this isn't something I say go out of your way to farm or anything right now, if you have them in your bank, still hold on to them. Once Phase 5 launches, you'll be able to use these to get some crafting mats or make a little bit of gold. The Fireless Embers are going to be tradable for things like Essence of Fire, Essence of Water, all the essences you need for crafting and enchanting and whatnot. And Emerald Chips are also going to be tradable for things like sacks of herbalism items or enchanting items, and the high end stuff too, not low end stuff like you'd see in Phase 3, like the current stuff like Greater Eternal Essences and whatnot. So if you have those around, get ready to spend them. They're going to be something useful pretty soon here. Now, if you want to use these yourself, that's great, saves you some gold. But I do think if you hold on to them a little longer past the beginning of the phase, when everybody turns them in and tries to make a profit, you might stand to make some money on them later on. There's going to be a flood of herbs, of enchanting mats, of essences on the auction house. So if you can plan out some gear ahead of time, some chance you might want to stock up on things. But right now, hold on to the embers, hold on to the chips, and get ready to spend them. It only takes up a few bank slots. In fact, they made the Fireless Embers stackable in a recent change. So hold on to them a little bit longer, don't trash them. You may have already, my condolences. I don't think there's any way to get them back, but it'll be nice to have to make a little bit of gold or save you a little bit of gold more likely in the future. Number 4, pre-plan your enchants. Now this is something you can do now just by thinking about the gear you're going to need next phase. Maybe you're using 60 upgrades or a sim, or you hopped on the PTR, or you know what you're targeting. So right now might be a good time to start preparing what you need for enchants. Now this ties into the last item, where things like enchanting mats might get pretty cheap or free if you have the turn-ins. But think about now what you're targeting, so maybe there's something you need that's a little bit more rare that you might be able to save a little gold on now before a lot of people rush in with new gear to enchant, or it might take a little bit of work for it, something like some of the Librams perhaps. I know one thing I'm looking at are spell power enchants with gold and pearls. Those are pretty rare, and the price in the auction house is a little high. It's one of the higher price items there, so maybe you want to invest some time in some fishing and try some RNG that way. Not that I'd recommend it, it's a pretty rare drop. But there's things like that you can do now that would get you prepared for the next phase. Now, speaking of Librams, while they are going to be superseded by the ZG enchants when they come out, which are looking pretty nice after they've been revamped, if you want some stuff in the meantime to prepare, or if you don't expect to get the ZG enchants that quickly, the Librams are pretty cheap right now, minus resilience, but that's kind of a special case that we probably won't see as much demand for next phase. But things like veracity, focus, rapidity, those are relatively inexpensive right now, and you can farm those up, get them turned into the Arcanums, and just have them sitting around in your bank or wherever you want them. But that's a good way to save some time now, and you don't have to run to Dire Maul or Burning Steps later on to turn them in and whatnot. You'll have them ready to go right when the gear drops. Additionally, there might be some demand for making some money with this as well. As we've seen with the Arcanums of Resilience, people are charging an arm and a leg for those, but you might be able to make a little bit on rapidity, might be able to make a little bit on focus or whatever. I can't really predict what they're going to sell for right now. The market is non-existent pretty much right now for them, but I have in the past seen people pretty much trying this into little cottage industries for themselves. So consider farming them up now while they're cheap, or at least the Librams. You can turn them into the Arcanums later, and it might make a decent profit off of that later on. Number 3, get to rank 10 in PvP. So this might not be of interest to everybody, but if you're looking at some of the rewards at ranks 11 and 14, let's say, you can work on this now to get to 10 and make that grind a little less later on. Now, why do I call out those 2 ranks in particular? Well, those are the ones that have the most interesting rewards. 11 is PvP mounts. You'll be able to go and buy the PvP mounts, the ones you can ride as soon as you hit that rank, and they're pretty cool looking. I really like the black cat that the Night Elves get. Now, that's purely cosmetic. Something a little more practical are the rank 14 weapons coming in Phase 6. Now, you don't want to go into Phase 6 not at rank 13, because you're going to have a few weeks of grind. It's a big one. I think it's going to take at least 3 weeks, probably longer if you don't cap out each week to get to rank 14. But when they do a pass on the weapons, they may actually be your best weapons, maybe for the whole phase and beyond. So don't slack on ranking up in PvP if that's your goal. Now that said, rank 12 and 13 do have a lot of the nice Martial and Warlord gears. These might be great. You might be targeting these yourself if you're an avid PvPer. If you're doing a lot of raiding, I do think they're a little bit lackluster overall, unless you want a lot of stamina for some reason and don't want set bonuses coming in Phase 5. Okay, maybe there's an argument for them there, but I find those to be a little less interesting and less impactful than raid gear is. But the weapons, well, they kind of stand on their own. They might be great. So my plan is to get to rank 13 sometime throughout the course of the phase. I might do 11 pretty quick and then drag my feet in 12 and 13. But when Phase 6 hits, I'm going to see those weapons, and if they're going to be my best, I'm going for them real hard. Now, getting to rank 10 is not too bad. If you want to track your progress, you absolutely want the Ranker add-on. It'll tell you the different milestones you need to reach for honor throughout the week, and how much to get to rank 10 ultimately, and then later on as they update it 13 and 14. So get that add-on. Don't kill yourself on this one, I say, but you probably do want to grind it out pretty quick so you don't have to do rank 10 after the new ranks have been released. Number 2, BWL attunement and your Onyxia cloaks. Okay, this one's a cop-out, I know. Everybody knows this one, but I just need to say it because I'm sure there's someone out there who's forgotten about it or isn't thinking about it. But go get your BWL attunement done. You go to the Scar Shield Quartermaster right outside the entrance to Ubers, clear in Ubers, and touch the orb after the last boss to finish it. Easy as that. Should take you no more than a half hour for an Ubers these days with a geared group. Along with that, you need an Onyxia Scale Cloak. You can get these off the auction house or you can get them crafted. It just takes a Cindercloth Cloak, which is crafted by tailors. They're pretty cheap off the auction house. The mats are really cheap for them. And then an Onyxia scale and a leather worker who can make the Onyxia scale cloak. Simple as that. You probably have one from doing Heat 3 and Molten Core because it's a good source of fire resist. And you probably still want to put a fire resist enchantment on it because you'll use it in BWL on Nefarian. And it's nice to have for fire mod too for that fire resist you'll want on that fight. That's it for this tip, but nonetheless, you need to have these things if you're going to do BWL. They're a must have. And number one, having a bunch of gold. If you've watched my videos, I sound like a broken record talking about gold, but you know, gold's a way of life, and well, if you're gonna raid, if you're gonna do anything, you need gold to pay for it. Now, how much do you need? Well, that's up to you, really. I always look at gold as what do I need to cover my raid consumes for the week and make sure I can generate that much each week. Anything beyond that, oh, that's just nice. Nice having a profit, nice having a little bit of a war chest to go dip into if you find an item you want, or maybe there's something in the auction house you really need, or would help someone in your raid out, something like that. Now, in my previous videos, I gave some tips on some farms and everything, and at this point, it's all saturated, as they knew they would be. There's a lot of competition out there, and everybody's farming the same things. Everybody pretty much needs the same things, so all my old tips, yeah, if they're working for you, great. If not, I've got a couple new ones here for you. I hope you watched my previous videos and have set up a nice little passive income for you, although those have been going down in price quite a bit, but they still generate enough gold, I find. Or maybe you found a niche farm that you're making some good money with. In that case, great, keep it up. I hope you're having a lot of success with it. But there's two things I recommend right now that are pretty easy to do, low impact, and you're probably doing one of them already. And the one you're probably doing already are the Searing Gorge dailies. Now, you know what these are, nothing new here, but you can generate some pretty decent gold if you just need to keep some funding coming in for your repairs, for your consumes, and whatnot. And it'll pretty much cover that. It's nice that there's something in Classic that lets you cover up those expenses, especially with the cost of materials really plummeting, and will continue to do so in Phase 5. This should keep you sustained for quite some time. So instead of doing something that's really complex or trying to manipulate a market in some way, it's an easy and reliable way to make gold that you can pretty much count on for the rest of the game. And don't forget, you're going to be able to turn in those Firelands embers for some essences too, so you can make a little money that way too. A little double dip. That's my favorite kind of farm, where I can do more than one thing at once. But I do have one farm we're going to put out there, mostly because I want to see the price on these things tank, so get farming. And that is in the Duskwood Incursion. Remember that? I'm sure you haven't been there in a long time. So you go down to the farm where all the dragons and whelps are at. The whelps drop small flame sacks at a pretty decent rate, better than the whelps in wetlands. But also, they're a bit of a hyperspawn too, so you can farm up a lot of sacks really quick here and make a pretty decent profit. Right now on my server, Crusader Strike NA, they're selling for about 1.5 to 2 gold per, depending on the day. But the spawn rate is so quick there, I went there myself in about a half hour, I farmed up 10. I never had that kind of success in wetlands. So get in there, get farming, and you'll one-shot them all anyway, so it's really quick, really easy. You have no risk of anything other than maybe some PvP action. It's not a high gold profit, but it's a really consistent one, and the drop rate's so good, it'll feel much higher than it is. And if you've been in the Arcanite bar market like I have, you notice that's dropped a lot recently, down to about 20 gold a bar, give or take, depending on the day, with arcane crystals hitting about 10 or 11 gold per. So it's pretty much at cost based on getting 2 bars per transmute on average. But next phase, Thunder Fury becomes a thing, and people with the bindings need 100 Arcanite bars for that. So we might see a little spike in the short term when the phase launches. So if you have a bunch of bars to sell, I'd say hold on to them a couple weeks. They're going to sell anyways because Arcanite bars always tend to sell. But sell them once the phase starts real fast, because the weapons crafted with Arcanite bars, other than Thunder Fury, are not going to be anyone's bis anymore, or even close to it most likely. So you'll want to dump them really quick. I think the Arcanite market is going to tank even further after a little spike at the beginning of the phase. But that's just my prediction. What actually happens may not be that at all. But I'm holding on to a few to sell before the phase starts. And if you have transmutes and you're not finding the bars are selling, try selling the transmutes instead. It'll cost you nothing. So that's all I have for this video. I hope it helps you getting ready for phase 5 in some way. But if you have a tip that you want to share, put it in the comments below. I'm sure there's things I don't know about, I overlooked, I just am stupid about. So call me out in the comments below and say whatever you want. I love hearing what people have to say, and I've learned a lot from people making comments, so I appreciate that. The engagement has been wonderful. On top of that, sorry for not being around much recently. Real life's just been really busy for me, so I haven't been able to put out as many videos as I wanted to recently. On top of that, there is one video I'm working on. It's a bit of an introspect about my first MMO, which is taking so much longer than I expected to put out, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end. I hope it is. I'm hoping to have that out probably in the end of the month, early October. Fingers crossed. I'm sure I'll miss that date, especially with Phase 5 launching. But that aside, if you like this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. You know what to do. You know how YouTube works at this point. But that's it for me. I hope to see you again soon, and good luck in Phase 5. See you later.